I welcome you to our daily Bible study. I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves, and this is our 22nd series entitled Fasting. Today we're going to deal with the Greek terms for fast, fasting, fastings, fasted, everything that has to do with fasting. We're going to try to cover all of these terms, but if not, there will be a part two. So let's dive right in. The first word today is nestia, nestia, and it comes from a word that is a root of this term, which is the word nestuo. And so I won't have to deal with this twice. This is one of the words we're going to deal with. I just want to give you the foundation. And so nestuo, which will actually be the next term that we deal with. So let's go to nestia. Nestia simply means abstinence from lack of food or voluntary and religious, specifically the fast of the Day of Atonement. And so again, we see the voluntary lack or the voluntary choice of choosing not to take food or liquids. And so it also means fasting or to be in want of food, a religious abstinence from food, annual public fast of the Jews, or the Great Day of Atonement that occurs in the month of Tisri, corresponding to the new moon of October. And if we continue, it also a fasting or a fast, a voluntary fast, a private fast. It can deal with a public fast that was done by the collective Jewish faith, a fasting caused by want or poverty. If we continue to go through, it is a fasting, again, abstinence from eating, generally for want of food in a religious sense of the private fastings of the Jews. And so here again, this fasting is the lack of substance. It is a choice where an individual chooses not to fast because of religious reasons, specifically when we deal with the New Testament. So let's move right on to nestuo. When we look at the term nestuo, it comes from, again, another term, which is nestis, and we're going to deal with this as well, so I don't want to get into it twice. And so when we look at the term nestuo, nestuo then means to fast. It is the act of withholding food. It means to abstain from food religiously. And if we go a little further, it means to abstain as a religious exercise from food and drink, either entirely, if the fast lasted but a single day, or from customary and choices of specific foods or nourishment, if continued for several days. And so it indicates then that a fast biblically could be totally without food or water, for a day, or specific things were cut out of the diet. But then again, fasting has to be something that we obligate ourselves to, and we must be led of the Lord. It's very important that we just don't take a long fast for the sake of fasting. And we have to make sure that when we do it, our heart is in the right place and we have the correct motive. And so again, fasting, to fast or abstain from eating. And in the New Testament, it speaks of, in many occasions, of private fasting. And with this understanding, we come to understand that when people mourned, they fasted. When people went through grief, they fasted. And so the fast was often connected with trying to come out of a emotional or a mental state. And before that can occur, people have to understand that they are in a state that is not conducive to their spirituality. And so there has to be a recognition that there is a need for fasting, and an individual has to understand that they are responsible for the mental state and emotional state as much as possible. And so we see that Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights. This was a supernatural fast that was necessary for him to gain full control of his humanity in order to defeat the enemy. And we're going to get into more of the reasons why fasting is done. And so on 2 occasions, our Lord spoke of fasting as a voluntary exercise. The disciples are warned against making it an occasion for a parade of piety. And so it was not something that you were to advertise. It was not something that you disclosed because of the distortion of your face or the distortion of your clothing. And so if we go on, in replying to the question of the disciples of John, they asked Jesus, how come we fast often, but your disciples don't? And so he gave to them an understanding that fasting in connection with prayer is very important. But in many cases, people have corrupted the text and corrupted the process of fasting because they made everyone to know just what they were doing. And so fasting, an obligation that we take on ourselves because we are going through grieving. We want to please God, or we're seeking to find an answer, or we're seeking for God's deliverance and intervention. And it's basically the same thing for the old as the new, according to these texts. I think I have a little bit more time for the next term. And so let's dive into this. Let's move to the final term. We've dealt with nestia, nestuo, and now we're going to deal with nestes or nestes. And so when we look at the term nestes, and I again want to make sure that I give you all of the information that is prepared, the term nestes, a very interesting word because it can also be a masculine with a genitive in esus, or fasting or being hungry. Eidos, was the Greek term. So it can deal with being hungry, but again, making a choice to do this. It means not eating or being abstinent from food for religious reasons. It can also deal with fasting and not having eaten. But again, these are religious reasons or spiritual reasons to bring ourselves to a point of clarity where we're seeking God to either alleviate our pain, to give us an answer, to lead and guide us, or to deliver the people. And so it means not having eaten, fasting, abstaining from food, simply because you are seeking God and seeking an answer or seeking for God to deliver. We are out of time. I thank you for joining us. This has been our daily Bible study, and I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves. Until next time, God bless and keep you.